In one small village, a group of people are heading toward a sugar mill factory. Every harvesting season, the factory hires seasonal workers, promising good wages and full accommodation. So there is one group of friends who are excited to work in that factory to earn some good money. Their names are Dewi, Frankie, Nanning, Enda, Fadil, Hendra, and Wadi. Hendra and Wadi are engaged, and they are planning to get married soon. Hendra has taken all the financial responsibility of the marriage, so to help him, Wadi decided to go with him to earn some extra cash. Frankie likes Nanning, so he is always trying his best to win her heart. After a long journey, they finally reach the factory in the evening, so they are directed to go straight to their lodge. As night falls, the girls meet their new roommate, Ronnie, who is from another village. As they prepare for dinner, they hear a steam whistle, and it is a signal for the workers that it is time to go to bed. The boys are in another lodge, and after the dinner everyone goes to their room. Fadil is a religious guy, so he starts to pray before sleeping. Then suddenly he sees a spirit for a brief second and gets really terrified. Later that night, Enda wakes up to drink water, and she feels someone passing through the kitchen room. She then notices that someone has opened the lodge's door, so she goes outside to check, and she sees one figure heading towards the factory. She then follows that figure but eventually loses track of it. Enda then hears some noises and follows them, which leads her in front of one warehouse. She peeks inside and sees a group of people performing a wayang ritual. Wayang is a puppet theater show, and sometimes it can be used for spiritual purposes. Enda is really confused. Then suddenly, all the people taking part in the ritual stare back at her. She gets scared and falls down on the ground. She then quickly gets up and starts running back to her lodge, while a big black-figured monster looms in the background. The next day, all the new workers gather in one place, and Marnie, the factory manager, introduces herself and the other staff. There are two security guards, Rano and Karno. Saman is the caretaker of the factory, and there are several foremen who will oversee new workers. Marnie then explains about the curfew system, which all workers have to strictly follow. The sound of the slit drum after dusk signifies the beginning of the yellow hours. During the yellow hours, all workers have to be around their respective lodges. And the sound of the steam whistle at 9 p.m. signifies the beginning of the red hours. During the red hours, no one is allowed to leave their lodges. Upon hearing this, Enda feels worried because she broke this rule last night. Now all the workers get assigned to their work. The boys get assigned to harvest the sugarcane, Nanang and Wadi are assigned to work in the gatehouse, and Enda gets assigned to work inside Marnie's office as an assistant. Everyone settles into their work, and one day Enda finds a baby bird at the base of a tree. She picks it up and puts it back on its nest. Seeing this, a woman named Gina praises her for the good deed. Later, during a break, Frankie and Dewi tell their co-workers about the terrible event that took place in the factory. 7 years ago, one of the factory's warehouse got engulfed in fire, and all the workers who got trapped inside were burned alive. They were all seasonal workers, and every night, they used to roam around the factory completely drunk. So there is a rumor that their spirits wander around the factory every night, and that's why the yellow and red hour curfew system were implemented. In the office, Enda is working alone, and she hears some voices. Suddenly, one spirit appears beside her and she gets really terrified. Now the working hour is almost over, so she quickly grabs her stuff and leaves. On the way, she sees Ronnie going inside the abandoned section of the factory. She slowly follows Ronnie and calls out to her, but it turns out to be an evil spirit, and it tries to attack her. Enda quickly runs away from there, and meets her friends outside, but she decides not to share her experience with them. At night, Frankie and Dewi are playing cards with the guards. The guards tell them more about the factory's history, and also mention a female spirit that wanders around at night. She always appears facing the opposite direction, and one should not run away from her, because she will always reappear in front of them. The only way to get rid of her is to politely say, "Excuse me." Now the red hour is about to begin, so Frankie and Dewi race toward their lodge, and one of Dewi's slippers flies off along the way. Frankie quickly gets inside the lodge and shuts the door, accidentally leaving Dewi outside. Dewi sees the reflection of a burned spirit in the door's glass, but when he turns around he sees no one. He gets really scared, and as soon as he tries to get inside the lodge, one of the spirits throws his slipper back at him. In the girls' lodge, while Nanning is doing her business, the light starts to flicker, and a bunch of burned spirits appear behind her, but Nanning doesn't notice them. Later, Wavi starts praying before going to bed, and she gets haunted by the burned spirit. The next day, on the way to work, Frankie and Dewi mention to Hendra that he was talking in his sleep. Hendra tells them that he had a nightmare, and Fadil also says that he had a strange dream last night. Concerned for her fiancé, Wavi asks Hendra to tell more about his dream, but Hendra gets annoyed and walks away. Later that day, while Ronnie is on her way to the way station, she encounters Enda. Enda is carrying a bunch of documents to submit them to the way and crane station. Since Ronnie is heading towards the way station, she offers to help Enda by taking the documents that need to be submitted. As Enda is heading towards the crane station, she notices Ronnie is picking up the files, right in the middle of the track of the sugarcane carrier. Enda calls out her name to warn her, but Ronnie looks back at her with an evil smile. Ronnie is clearly possessed, and she keeps standing there wearing the creepy smile. Enda tries to save her, but the loads of sugarcane fall right on top of Ronnie. Later in the office, Marnie scolds Enda for not doing her job properly, so Enda keeps apologizing. At that same time, Salman comes and tells Marnie that they should postpone the milling, because he thinks that Ronnie's accident was not a normal incident. But Marnie tells him that she can't stop the work, because she has told her higher-ups that everything is on track, and postponing the milling right now will cause a huge loss. Later that day, Salman takes help of Gina to find if everything is okay in the factory, because Gina is a shaman. They sit in front of a huge banyan tree, and Gina starts cutting some coconuts. Black water spills out from all coconuts, and centipedes emerge from the last one. Seeing this, Salman and Gina believe that the spirits of the factory are angry, because someone has broken the rules. Gina then says that they will have to prepare the offering ceremony to calm the spirits. Back at the lodge, Fadil comes to check on Enda after hearing about Ronnie's accident. Enda starts crying and tells him that Ronnie's accident was not normal, and she has been experiencing lots of strange things lately. Enda believes these events are happening because she broke the red hour rule on her first night and witnessed the Wayang ritual. Meanwhile, in the same warehouse, Salman and Gina prepare 2 oxen as an offering. They lock those oxen inside the warehouse and leave. Later that day, Enda sees Ronnie sitting alone in her room, so she goes inside to check on her, and she sees that Ronnie's whole body is covered in blood. However, it is actually an evil spirit haunting Enda. Enda screams in horror, so Nanning and Wavi come to check on her, and they tell Enda that Ronnie has already been sent back to her village. Then the next day, Salman and Gina go back to the warehouse, and see those oxen are still alive, which means the spirits have rejected their offering. Gina believes that this time spirits are really angry, so they decide to sacrifice those oxen by themselves and offer them to spirits by performing some ritual. That night, while patrolling near a well, Rano and Karno are haunted by spirits. After seeing a bucket being pulled up on its own, they flee in terror. Simultaneously, Fadil experiences sleep paralysis. He sees the spirit of a headless woman with her severed head resting right beside him. Terrified and unable to sleep, Fadil wakes up late for work. As he runs toward the factory, he sees Marnie and the staff gathered in a panic around the well, and he overhears Gina advising Marnie to postpone the milling. After they are gone, Fadil investigates that well, and discovers the dead body of one factory worker. Salman suddenly appears behind him, and instructs him not to tell anybody about this incident. After observing him closely, Salman realizes Fadil is no ordinary person, and asks him to recount his experiences to help solve the mystery. Fadil then mentions Enda, so Salman brings Enda and Fadil to Marnie's office, and Gina starts questioning them. Enda tells everything that she saw on the first night, and after hearing her, Gina concludes that the spirits are not angry because of her curfew violation, because red hour rule exists only to prevent workers from seeing the spirits. There must have been a bigger violation that has made spirits angry. Salman whispers to Gina, prompting her to ask Fadil about his dreams. Observing him intently, Gina agrees that Fadl is spiritually gifted and asks him to share his visions. Fadl then says that on his first night, he dreamed of two people sneaking into the factory. Hearing this, Gina asks Enda if she went to the West Warehouse, but Enda clarifies she went to the warehouse next to the main office building. Gina now believes that those two people from Fadl's dream must have gone to the West Warehouse and made the bigger violation. Gina then explains that the West Warehouse is forbidden to enter because it was the place where a fire took place 7 years ago, killing all the workers who were trapped inside. That night, Gina and Saman perform a ritual to communicate with the spirits, while Marnie, Enda, Fadl, Rano and Karno observe them from the sideline. Gina ties a whip around Saman's neck and he is soon possessed. The possessed Saman warns that anyone who breaks the rules will die, and he starts to dance by riding a hobby horse. Then he starts to walk on the burning charcoal and shattered pieces of glass, and after that he starts eating them. Then he runs like an animal and goes inside the West Warehouse. Everyone follows the possessed Saman and finds him bowing before a white statue. Once Gina exorcises the spirit from Saman's body, the statue suddenly vanishes. Gina then explains that in the past, accidents often occurred in this warehouse, so people made a pact with Maharatu, the queen of the spirit kingdom, to not bother each other. Since then, this warehouse has become a sacred place, but 7 years ago, a group of seasonal workers angered Maharatu by drinking alcohol inside this warehouse, so she punished them by burning them alive. After that incident, the warehouse was completely closed, and now someone has again angered the Queen of Spirits. Saman then notices that Maharata's belongings have been stolen, specifically the gold jewelry that sat before her statue. He explains that only the people with special abilities could see it, but somehow someone was able to see it, and took it, making the spirits angry. Then suddenly Marnie gets possessed. She begins to bleed from her nose and eyes, then vomits a significant amount of blood. Gina quickly takes out the spirit from her body and directs Rano and Karno to take Marnie to her home. Gina believes that two people from Fadl's dream must have stolen Maharata's gold jewelry, so now they have to find out who they are. Now Fadl and Enda quickly head back to the lodge to find the clue and also to warn their friends. Back in the girls' lodge, Nanning sees that someone has searched her room and taken out gold jewelry from her secret stash. So Nanning was the one who stole Maharata's belongings, and now burnt spirits have found her. They start to haunt Nanning, and seeing them, Nanning screams in horror. Hendra comes to check on her and asks her what happened. Nanning then shows him the gold jewelry, and Hendra gets angry because he had told her not to take it. So it was Hendra and Nanning that appeared in Fadl's dream, and they were the ones who sneaked inside the forbidden West Warehouse. Hendra tells Nanning that they must return the jewelry immediately, but as they are about to leave, the spirits begin to play tricks on Nanning. She sees hundreds of burned spirits outside the lodge, and suddenly, Hendra's head completely twists backward and starts yelling at her. Nanning is totally freaked out, so she falls down on the ground and drops all the jewelry. The real Hendra snaps her back to her senses, gathers the gold, and they head toward the warehouse. Meanwhile, Wavi is at the boys' lodge, preparing food for her fiancé and his friends. Then Fadl and Enda come to the girls' lodge, and they find a gold bangle that Hendra had missed to pick up. Wavi, Frankie, and Dewi see Fadl and Enda in the girls' lodge, so they go there and ask them what is happening. Fadl and Enda tell them everything, and since they found a gold bangle outside the lodge, and Hendra and Nanning are missing, they are sure that Hendra and Nanning are the ones who stole Maharata's belongings. Wavi refuses to believe that her fiancé could steal, so she suggests finding Hendra and Nanning first before the red hour begins. Fadl then instructs Frankie and Dewi to seek help from Rano and Karno. Then he instructs Enda and Wavi to go to the West Warehouse to deliver the gold bangle to Gina. Fadl then tells them that he will search around the lodges to find Hendra and Nanning. After that they split up, and while searching, one of the factory workers asks Fadl for his help, because his roommate is acting strange. Fadl rushes in to help, and finds that roommate hiding inside a drawer. Fadl asks him what is happening, and the man reveals that the person outside is not human. Suddenly, the worker who led Fadl into the room transforms into the big black-figured monster. The monster seizes Fatal by the throat and attempts to strangle him, but as Fatal begins to recite a prayer, it immediately flees. Fatal then leaves the man safely outside the lodge and continues his search for Hendra and Nanning. Meanwhile, Frankie and Dewi encounter a spirit riding a bicycle. They see that the spirit has a hole in his face, so they are terrified and start running away. Then they encounter the female spirit that Rano and Karno had mentioned. They politely ask her to excuse them, but that trick doesn't work and the female spirit starts chasing them. They eventually escape and reunite with Fatal. Having failed to find Hendra and Nanning, the boys decide to stick together and head to the West Warehouse. Wadi and Enda are also followed by a floating spirit, but they walk quickly toward the warehouse without looking back. Soon the steam whistle sounds, signaling the start of the red hour. Hendra and Nanning reach the warehouse and return the jewelry to its box, but Gina tells them that one piece is still missing. At that moment, Enda and Wadi arrive and hand over the gold bangle. Saman then returns the jewelry box to its rightful place, leaving Wadi in utter shock that her fiancé was responsible for the theft. Now Fatal, Frankie and Dewi also arrive there. Gina asks Hendra and Nanning what they did that night, and how they are able to see Maharata's belongings. Nanning then reveals everything. It turns out Hendra and Nanning are having an affair, and that night, they sneaked inside the warehouse to be intimate. Adultery is Satan's favorite sin, and they committed that sin right in front of Maharatu. Because of their action, Hendra and Nanning became Satan's favorite, and received the ability to see Maharata's belongings. Although Hendra told Nanning not to take the jewelry, Nanning could not resist and stole it. Hearing this, Wadi breaks down in tears, because her fiancé is cheating on her with her best friend. Frankie also gets angry with Hendra, because everyone knows how much he really likes Nanning. Hendra and Nanning keep apologizing, but Wadi is not ready to forgive them, and she walks out from there. Suddenly, a spirit possesses Wadi, and she starts floating in the air. She now stands on the roof of the warehouse entrance and begins to laugh. She then shouts a spell, and every worker in the factory becomes possessed. The workers act like zombies and gather around the warehouse entrance. They then start eating the glass pieces and burning charcoals from the earlier ritual. Fatal and his friends try to stop the workers, but they are powerless. Then possessed Wadi tries to attack Gina, but Gina uses her power and stops her in mid-air and pins her to the ground. Gina then tries to exorcise Wadi, but the spirit is more powerful than Gina, and it begins to strangle her. At that same time, Enda gets possessed and she is taken back to the past. She finds herself watching the Wayang performance, and after that, she observes one ritual being performed in the middle of the sugarcane field. In that ritual, one couple is buried alive as an offering to Maharatu. Then suddenly the spirits stop the possession and leave everyone's bodies. Gina and Saman believe that Maharatu was the one who possessed Enda, because she wants the sugarcane wedding ritual to be performed again, and she wants Hendra and Nanning as a couple to be sacrificed. Hearing this, the group is in disbelief. Nanning bursts into tears and starts asking for help from her friends. Fatal then asks if there is any other way to stop it, but Gina explains that since the factory was built, this ritual has always been conducted before the milling season begins. They tried everything to stop using humans as a sacrifice, until finally, Maharatu accepted the pair of oxen as a replacement. But this time Hendra and Nanning committed the bigger sin right in front of her. That's why she wants the sugarcane wedding ritual to be performed again. Seeing no other option, they take Hendra and Nanning to Marnie's house and prepare them as a newlywed couple for the ritual. After that, they are taken away to the sugarcane field, where Gina has already started the ritual. Now everyone gathers around a massive pit, and Gina instructs the others to throw the couple inside. But shockingly, instead of the real Hendra and Nanning, two puppets are thrown into the pit. It turns out Gina and Saman are trying their best to save the lives of Hendra and Nanning. Before the ritual, Saman drew blood from Hendra's and Nanning's hands, which Gina wiped onto the puppets, while assigning them Hendra's and Nanning's true names. After that, Hendra and Nanning are placed inside a protective circle of salt, to shield them from Maharatu's tracking. They are trying to trick Maharatu by replacing their bodies with puppets. As the ritual is about to be complete, Fadil, Enda, and Dewi rush to Marnie's house to see if Hendra and Nanning are safe. Back in Marnie's house, Hendra and Nanning are still apologizing to Wadi, but she just ignores them and leaves them alone in the room. Then suddenly, an invisible force enters the house. It tracks down Hendra and Nanning and blows out the protective circle. Seeing this, Hendra and Nanning are terrified, and the door gets closed on its own. Rano and Karno try to force it open but fail. Fadil, Enda, and Dewi arrive, and they also try to open the door, but suddenly the door opens on its own, and they see puppets lying inside the circle instead of Hendra and Nanning. Now they all rush back to the sugarcane field and stop the ritual. Then they start digging up with their bare hands, and suddenly Gina gets possessed by Maharatu. Maharatu says that their dirty tricks won't work, and starts laughing at them, and eventually leaves Gina's body. After digging further, they finally find Hendra and Nanning, but they are already dead. The next day, the factory stops all the work and sends back all the seasonal workers to their village. On the way back home, Fadil looks at Enda and sees that one of the spirits has followed her. The following year, Gina and Saman return to the warehouse to offer the oxen, but the spirits reject them once again. Suddenly, the door of the warehouse closes on its own, and the black-figured monster appears right in front of them. That monster attacks Gina and Saman, and the movie ends. So this was the movie Pabrik Gula, aka Sugar Mill. It is an Indonesian horror movie that was released in 2025. The movie was marketed as being inspired by true events and local folklore. However, the story is based on the 2019 viral Twitter thread written by the creator named SimpleMan. What do you guys think about this movie? Comment down below and remember to subscribe to the channel for more movie breaks.